I didn't get it fully ready for you, but we asked her what she'd like to tell her sponsor. She's about to be 15 years old, and you should have seen this young girl just think for a few moments and then look at the camera and convey her gratitude to Jimmy and Lynette. And then think for a few minutes and then look up again at the camera and convey more of her thoughts and how much she was grateful for what they were doing. Just over and over again. It's just overwhelming to recognize. And I think what startles you is because once you start sponsoring, you forget that you're sending out the $32 almost. And the months can fly by without you even communicating to them. And then when you see them, they say things like, I never knew my sponsor would ever visit me. I can't believe y'all are here. We're overwhelmed at how great. And so it can be so small to you, but it's just so large to them. And I think that is just a powerful reality. So we were grateful to be your representatives there for your sponsored children. Okay, so anything else you wanted to share about that? Okay, lessons to the kids. Tim, I think you were going to share on that.
Sorry, I'm not used to talking anyway. I'm going to talk some about the lessons that we taught with the kids. First of all, I'd like to rewind just a little bit back to kind of where Alicia was, where we were. Should we go? Should we not go? The struggle with that some. A lot of the lessons that we had on Wednesday nights really, I think, helped lead us up to that. And if you're not here on Wednesday nights, take this opportunity to come in and join us. It's a great time. But the main focus that I went into this, I mean, some of you may know, some may not. You know, I'm a missionary kid from Brazil. My parents were missionaries. So from my perspective, you know, I've seen a lot of that. I've been there. I've lived the life, you know, exposed to that. So I was like, you know, why do I need to go? You know, I struggled with that a lot. The more we prayed about it, the more we felt like we should all go. And I'm like, okay, God, if I'm going, I need you to show me what you want me to learn from this trip. Because, I mean, to me, it's more of like a repetition in a sense. And so, in some ways, he kind of really put the brakes on my mindset. And I think a while back I'd studied some about the names of God and the Jehovah Jireh, the Lord that provides. Kept popping into my mind about how, you know, we can't do this on our own. You know, we didn't even have the luggage to go. We didn't have the passport. We didn't have the means to do it. But we really felt like God was wanting us to go. And so, you know, we did it, like she mentioned, we took the first steps, and God did provide. And so that was a big leap, I guess, or step for me to see that process work its way through. And I never shared this with them, but it was kind of because I was looking at, okay, God, what are you trying to show me? And it's all about relationships. He's trying to show a deeper relationship we can have with Him through seeing Him more as a provider. I've had some people before we even went, oh, that's a dangerous place in the country. You're going to get sick. You're not, you know, well, then my mind can think, well, God is a protector. You know, and then what's really neat is then when we finally ended up having our meeting about what we're going to be teaching the kids, it was about different aspects of God. And I was like, you know, how neat is that? That it just flows right in together with it. And the first, we had 8 different lessons that we taught the kids. Several of us taught different days. And the first one was about how God is spirit, and we went through that with the kids. The second one was how God is personal, how you can know Him personally. We went through also where He is unchanging. He's the same today, yesterday, and forever. And also all present, how He is here, how He's in Guatemala, and we even used an illustration of the kid, how he's even on the moon, and kids thought that was really neat. How He is all-knowing, and how our minds are limited. You know, we use an illustration of like a cup filling up with water, and you can keep filling it. It overflows. It has a capacity. You know, we can only understand so much, and then we can't contain it anymore. And that's how, you know, we think that, okay, and I think like mission trips like this or different things in your life, trials you go through, it's God increasing your capacity. You know, you may be full, you can't understand anymore. Well, now you went from being a thimble to being a cup. You know, it's like God has increased your capacity to understand Him more. And through that, it's neat because you know, you think, well, I've known this, I know this, you know, I've studied that. All of a sudden, you go through something in life that expands that capacity, and you're like, wow. And then you see that God can show so much more. And it's all through life like that with trials and different things that we face. And going on this, it was really neat to me. I mean, I struggled a lot with sleeping hours because they're 2 hours behind. And I usually get up about 4:30 here, but it's just 2:30 their time, and it messed me up more than I thought it would. So I would hit the bed pretty quick. But also back to this about God being all-knowing. He's all-powerful. You know, nothing. And we went into an illustration about superheroes with the kids, and how, you know, even the superheroes have weaknesses, but to God there is no weakness. And then also, you know, at the end we went into how God is holy and how God is love. And we went through different, we had illustrations for different ones, and it was neat to see the kids really convey, because we would apply the hand motions to those, which I think we'll be doing here shortly. And then also the main theme verse that we were using throughout that week with the kids was in 2 Samuel 7:21. It says, "Therefore you are great, O Lord God, for there is none like you, and there is no God beside you, according to all that we have heard with our ears." And we went over that verse every day, at least 2 or 3 times a day with the kids, and to re-emphasize, you know, all the aspects that we were seeing of God, and how much, you know, and then we were also emphasizing that this is just a small portion of what we can understand, but throughout life there's several different areas and aspects that He will reveal Himself even stronger and more to you. The one thing I probably want to like walk away with in the sense is it's all about relationships. You know, I want to thank those that helped financially, those that helped through prayer, but it's all about relationships. It's relationships with us, you know, as a body. It's relationships with us as a team working together. It's relationships with us when we're there at the camp, at the school, at the church that we were working with. And as we go on throughout life, we need to keep that in mind, keep that in focus, that it is about relationships, building relationships for the glory of God.
Right, so we did teach them exactly what Tim said. We taught them about God, and the purpose was, we want you to know more about God so that you'll want to know Him. Remember, I announced this a couple of times when we were talking about it. The idea is that if you know somebody, you know somebody that's great, you really appreciate them, you really respect them, and you're talking to someone else that doesn't know them, you might say something to the effect of, wait till you get to know this person, you're going to love them. That's true about our God. Wait till you get to know Him, you're going to love Him. And so we wanted to teach the kids about God so that they would want to know Him and that they would be more deeply in love with Him. And then at the end of each lesson, we would do a craft that in which we would go through the gospel presentation. So there's a gospel presentation at the end of every class period for the entire week following these lessons. So just for some interaction, because it's in the evening, we're going to get you guys to do the signs with us so that you can learn them. Okay, the gestures we taught the kids. And the kids learned them all, and were able to repeat them. So this is a quiz to see if you're smarter than a 5th grade Guatemala. Okay, so that's... All right, so the first one is that God is spirit, right? God is spirit. This is what we taught them. And then we taught them that God is personal. Just lifting your hands up and looking up. God is personal. We taught them that God is unchanging. And we're not with a smile on your face, not grumpy, unchanging. It doesn't change. And that God is everywhere. He's present everywhere. Okay, help me out, guys. God is all-knowing. He's all-knowing. God is holy. He's all-powerful. God is love. Okay? So we talk about all those things. So each of these points, again, by the end of the week, they were able to repeat these for us and walk home with them. We repeated them each day just a way of teaching them about that. Now, we hear all of those things. We know all those things about God. Most of us do, at least. And we take them for granted. But one of the significant things there is you recognize that if you're a child whose dad has left you or is an alcoholic, and you're in an impoverished situation, to know that God is all powerful is a significant reality, right? To know that God is all knowing, that God is present everywhere when you're scared. To know these things is really important for a child. So that was a privilege for us to be able to teach them these things and hopefully teach them in a way that they can remember them. So it's just such a great blessing to us. And a blessing to us, we left our supplies with them. That's sort of our typical thing. We left markers and colored crayons and paper and those kinds of things. But also to see the teachers. You give one of the teachers a bracelet, a gospel bead bracelet, which many of us are familiar with. And you ought to see the smile on their face to get a gospel bead bracelet. Just overwhelming things to witness and really humbling to us who have so much. So just grateful for that opportunity. Cultural, that Elena.
She's right here.
Okay, I'm going to talk about like the towns we were in. So Bologna was the town of the school and the church we're in, and it is an older town. You can tell the buildings were small and close together, and you can tell they used to be really bright. And the people are really kind. They're inviting and warm, and if you knock on their door, they welcome you to their home and serve you food. And a few sponsored families, they actually gave gifts back to their sponsors, which was really neat. And the day we got into Bologna, the first day we were there was a celebration going on in the town square, and this was the Assumption of Mary. And this is a Catholic celebration, so there were people everywhere, and there was like a Catholic shrine of like Mary, and there were like rose petals everywhere, and prayer bombs were going off. Like, prayer bombs would go off like at random moments of the day, and it was scary to death. And you're just like, what in the world?
It's like a cannon going off randomly, and they call them prayer bombs. So we did pray every time they went off.
And then Antigua was very historical. It reminded me and a few other people about downtown Charleston. Like the roads were like cobblestone, and the markets, the people knew a little bit of English, but sometimes you would talk through the translators. Like you would act like the translator was buying it so they'd give you a better deal. That was the way to do it. And we went to the town square after we went to the market, and there's a Catholic church right beside the town square, and it was like that in Bologna too. But when we were there, they started shooting off prayer bombs, and they actually had a Catholic ceremony. I'm not sure what it was about, there were Asian missionaries in the middle of the town square doing a Jesus dance in Spanish, and that was really cool to see. And the dump is in Guatemala City. It's in La Mirada. It's a mile of very it's in extreme poverty. But you would look into this. You have to go drive through the cemetery to get to the ravine that the dump was in, and there was trash everywhere, and the smell was awful. But you would look in there and see the trucks driving by, and you would see the people running by, trying to get the first pick of what was in the trucks, because they would collect the trash and take the plastic in these huge trash bags and sell them for 10 quetzales, which is a little more than $1. And so it's just really sad. And then you see like little tarps put up, like tents, and they would live in that. And so it was just really sad to see.
So I taught at the church, one of the things that you learn on a mission trip is that whatever you think is going to happen gets changed usually. So I learned, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday before I was going to leave, that I was preaching on Sunday at the church as sort of a parentheses in an email that was sent to me. Anyway, we preached at the church on Sunday, and then they asked me to teach on Tuesday, they asked me to teach on Christians in politics, because Guatemala has a very corrupt government. The president of Guatemala is in hiding. He apparently stole millions of dollars of Guatemalan tax money and has absconded with it, and they do not know where he is. And so they have candidates running for office now, and the Guatemalans wanted to get a biblical introduction to how should they respond to that. There are many candidates that are running for president now in Guatemala. The leader among them, the leading candidate, is actually one who is connected with the gangs. And you wonder, why would they vote someone who's in connection with gangs to be their president? And the answer is because the candidates offer the people something for their vote. Fertilizer, seed, tin roofing, things like that, and people will vote for them, and so another corrupt politician gets in place. And so Guatemala is a very rich country in the sense of rich in natural resources. They have everything. It's beautiful, it's fertile valley. Used to be the capital of Latin America and just has all the potential, and yet it is extremely impoverished, and there's great violence and crime in Guatemala, and much of it is due to corruption in the government. And so they wanted to know about that. They also asked me to teach about what the Bible says about the family. And they asked me this last time I was there to teach on it, and the reason that they ask is because it's fairly typical for the husband in the marriage to be out of the picture, to be an alcoholic, macho man who has nothing to do with the family and who sleeps around with multiple women and has children with them. And so usually who comes to that at the church is all the women. And they want to hear about what the Bible says about the family. And it's a very hard thing to talk to them about. You wish the husbands were there to hear it. You often feel that way as a pastor. You have a message and you think, these people really need to hear it. And they're never there when you're preaching the message. So you just have to trust the Lord in that. It's just a reality that you face. And then Wednesday, they did something new. This is the first time A&G has done it. They asked several local pastors if they would be interested in pastoral training. And they asked me if I would do that. They'd hoped that 15 would come, and they had 30 come. So they're really pleased by that. They were from 4 towns. And so I taught them for a little while, and then we had questions and answers. Questions like, I'm a pastor, and there's a wife who came to me and confessed that she had committed adultery. And we told her that she needed to confess to her husband, but she didn't confess to her husband because she knows that her husband would kill her if she confessed. What should we do? Never had a question like that in an American setting before. And so they're asking real questions and hard questions. And so anyway, I was just thankful for the opportunity to speak to them. And Lord willing, there'll be more other opportunities for that sort of thing. Camp Canaan is where we stayed. Camp Canaan is a camp that's owned by A&G. They got it a remarkable opportunity many years ago. And it's a camp that the kids from the various schools get to come attend for a week once a year. So the sponsored kids get to go visit Camp Canaan. It's where we stayed last year, and it's where our team stayed this year. Last year there weren't any kids with us because there was an earthquake in Mexico, if you remember, and they were afraid to bust the kids in. But this year they brought them, and the kids that they brought were the junior hires that are in a school at the dump. Okay, so the dump is a dump. It's a huge valley where all the city's trash is brought, truck after truck, all day long. Trash is brought and dumped, and 14,000 people live off of the dump. They live off the trash in the dump. Their kids go to a school now at the dump. This school is an amazing phenomenon. It was run by Guatemala. It was a public school, But the gang violence and the difficulty of the students was so bad that the government decided that they were going to have to shut down the school. But the mayor's wife, Mayor of Guatemala, his wife, she's in charge of social services. She contacted AMG and said, would you guys be willing to run this school? And we will give you as much money as you need to run the school. Tell us how much you need per child to run the school. AMG said, this is how much we need, and now AMG is running the school. None of the kids are sponsored, but they're all able to come, get clothes, shoes, food every day, be taught the scriptures. And these are kids whose parents are living off the dump. They have to pay $4 a month in order to go to the school. But that $4 provides all their meals, and the families are very inclined to have them come because for $4 they can't provide meals for their kids. And so this is a very inexpensive way, and the kids are in school at this. It's the best looking school that AMG has. It's a remarkable thing. It's doubled in attendance over last year, looks to be doubling again, and they're going to be building a second level because of it, building a park. You drive up this place where there's a dump, and see this school in the middle of all of that. It's just overwhelming to realize. It's ruled by gangs, and so these kids, this is how kids survive in an impoverished society. They connect with gangs, they find belonging in the gangs, and they also find a means of resources. The gangs can provide for them. And so now the school is helping these kids see that there's hope outside of gang life. Those kids are the ones who came to Camp Canaan. First time they'd ever visited before. One of the leaders of what AMG said, there are kids that are difficult in Guatemala, and there are kids that are the most difficult kids in Guatemala. These kids are below that. That's how hard they are. So we're sitting there on Wednesday evening in the cafeteria with the kids, in the gym with the kids. All of us are eating, and one of the AMG missionaries sees the tattoo on Alan's neck and asks him about it. Alan tells him his testimony. It's related to that. And the guy says, well, you should share with these kids because some of them are coming from difficult situations like you've been in. In fact, they told us that some of those kids had actually killed people, and some of them have been involved in prostitution, and many had witnessed their own parents being killed. And so Alan agreed to share his testimony. So Alan gets up there with a translator and shares his testimony. And afterwards, Orpha, the leader of the camp, starts speaking to the kids. And she starts telling them, asking them questions, challenging them. Why do you continue living the way that you're living, pursuing these things when you know they lead to dead ends? Why aren't you turning your life to Christ when you recognize there's good? And these kids have been loved on this week like they've never been loved on before at this camp. Counselors have been telling them how much they love them. No one's cared about them in their life. And now they're hearing that love over and over each day, hearing Alan's testimony, and then hearing Orpha, one of the camp director's wife, speak to them. They start huddling together. I don't think anybody on our team's ever witnessed anything like what we witnessed. We didn't even know what to say about it. We're sitting at the table, and they start huddling around, holding each other. Just holding each other in circles or putting their arms around each other, and many of them start weeping. And when I say weeping, I mean mourning and wailing, like loud screams and yells, wailing, to the point where you can't even hear what's going on because so many of them are weeping. One of the kids went in a corner, and you could just hear him yelling across the gym, just wailing. And so our guide went over there to talk to him. And he said that his mom had left them 3 years ago, and she had contracted AIDS, and so she died 3 months ago. And her husband, because of that, his father, had become an alcoholic. And so now he was having to take care of his siblings in the dump. And he said that he didn't want to go back to that and wasn't sure what to do. And that's just one example of many other stories, but I saw some young men there and women who had looked so hardened earlier in the week. I mean, in fact, a few of them that looked like gang members by their clothing and by the way they act and their disrespect for the leaders. I saw them weeping and holding the leaders at the end of that evening. Never witnessed anything like it, but I believe that many of them had their life changed that night by the Lord. And so just remarkable. It's hard for us to convey what it was like to sit there and experienced that. We were all just pretty dumbfounded by the reality of it. So anyway, thankful for that opportunity that was not expected along the way. All right, partnership. Alan, you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah. Just real quick, I was, you think about what Tim has mentioned as far as relationships, and I was thinking along the lines of a couple of things. Number one, this church has partnered with us, us being the ones you sent down to Guatemala. You partnered in child sponsorship. With me having 3 babies and leaving my wife alone for a week, yeah, that's a lot of partners stepping up to that, and I'm most grateful for that, and just how that partnership that existed there between you guys. And then, as you go, like Chris said, we're not taking God to Guatemala. We're just seeing what He's doing. And so we partner with locals there, and that's kind of what it is. I think about this, and if you've been around me, you've heard these verses from Paul in Philippians. He says that when he first left Macedonia, he says, "And it was kind of you to share my trouble, and you Philippians yourselves know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I first left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving, except you only. Even in Thessalonica, you sent me help for my needs once again." Then he says this, and this is incredible. He says, "Not that I seek to give, but I seek the fruit that increases to your credit." So Paul says that these Philippians are investing in him, they're giving to him, but they're also receiving. And so when we go to Guatemala, we go with the intention to give. We want to give ourselves. We want to love these people with the love that Christ has loved us. We want to invest in their lives with truth and impact them. But in essence, we are not only giving, we're also receiving. And we receive by those that are there, like Orpha and Jose Luis and Samuel and the principal at the school. These men model to us servanthood, humility. The professor at the principal or director, Eddie, at the school. Now you think, when we think, you think principal, you think manages the school, right? I oversee the events of the school, make sure the curriculum's good, the teacher's good, all those things. Well, when they were looking for a sponsorship, they asked Eddie, where's the greatest need? Because Eddie knows the people that's in the community. He took us to every one of our sponsored children's family. Eddie knew where they lived. So in essence, Eddie is not just a principal, Eddie is a shepherd. He's a pastor. But whenever you looked at him, you never saw him up front. He was always behind, just modeling to us what it looks like to deeply care about people behind the scenes. Just love and invest and Samuel, same thing. So patient. He never complained. When it didn't matter, I didn't hear one complaint the whole time. And you think, he's got all these responsibilities, these things he's trying to do. It didn't matter. There was just a different mindset. And so it's not only giving, but it's receiving. They're modeling to you what it looks like serving God in those contexts. And so it's just really neat. It's just really neat to partner with people, because we didn't go down there thinking that, okay, here we are, we're going to help you poor Guatemalans. No, we went in there with humble hearts,